I'm gonna be high as a fucking man.
And now, the stationary astronaut.
Burt Wallington here to take jobs again. All right, send out your Twitter tweet. See what I have to deal with, folks? Isn't that weird when it just repeats and it's like I got like 4 more things to attach to it? It's like people around you are definitely judging. Not my problem. Stay away. Okay, we rocking?
Let's rock.
Sick. Get up, girl. You're not wearing the fishnet shoes today?
No fishnet shoes today, but still pretty cool kicks.
Rocking the Adidas?
Adidas.
Yes.
All day I dream about shoes.
That's not what it used to be. It's definitely not what it used to be.
It still ain't.
Oh, let's talk. Okay, so you are the voice of Go 96.3 in the morning?
Sure am.
One of the 3?
One of the 3.
Really?
Yeah. Morning radio's a trip.
Is there ever a time where, do you always, because I grew up listening to Dave Ryan.
Oh, yeah, me
in the
too.
morning. So it was like everyone kind of had to follow suit and stay in line with his show. Is it like that still?
You know, I mean, as far as like what people's routine in the morning.
Personalities?
No, I mean, what I actually respect Dave Ryan a lot.
Yeah.
I listen to Dave Ryan too. And I still every now and then will tune into his show. I adore his female co-host, Fallon. I mean, it's hard to relate to anyone else because our careers are so weird.
Fallon is the shit. Can I stop you
She's
there?
amazing. She's amazing.
She just got married.
Yes.
She is A1 right
She's an incredible human. And what I love about Dave Ryan is that even though they sometimes use actors and even though they recycle bits, like it's all kind of part of the craft of radio. And I think he was someone who was one of the pioneers where he wasn't trying to be like, hey, I'm Dave Ryan. Like he was okay with the idea. And I think this is even him saying it like everybody has pimples on their face. Everybody poops. And everyone's poop stinks. And he was very embracive of that. Like he's not trying to be something that he's not, even though he's an exaggerated version of who he is. And I respect it. I respect the craft, and I try to do that type of authenticity in everything that I do and take it even a step further because I think as a female and as someone who you can't see what I look like on the radio. I had someone who the other day on Saturday, actually, she came up to me and she was like, oh my gosh, I listen to you every single morning. I thought you were white. And I'm going, really, chick? It's 2018. You still think voices have colors? Are you serious? And so with that, I have to not only take radio, but what's different about it is, you have to embrace who you are on the air and take it off the air. And your show doesn't end at 10. Your show is 24 hours. And if you don't understand that, then as a radio personality, you're going to be a dinosaur in a couple of years. And you have to embrace that your personality, your influence, it exists all the time. And so that's why I try to continue who I am and even show other layers of myself on social media to show, hey, this is what I look like. And if I can do it, you can do it too. And that goes with the fact that I am a Latina, the fact that I have curves, the fact that, I'm super comfortable in my own skin, but I've also had a lot of ups and downs in my life. I don't want people to just see that pretty color or that staged whatever. I want people to see the raw, the real, the sad, the struggle, so that they can see, okay, it's not just a highlight reel. It's a lot of work, like a lot more work than people think. It's not just 6 to 10, 4-hour workday easy. It's like, no, 6 to 11 p.m. And so it's cool. I think the fact that Dave Ryan's still around 25 years, not just anybody gets that. You're lucky if you get 6 months, 2 years, 25 years, he's doing something right. So
Did you always operate like that as a USC cheerleader? Did you always know that my role doesn't just stop here with the pom-poms, it's got to carry on, I have to be a personality?
I don't think I knew who I was then. With that, it was like, I think I took the pride of being a USC cheerleader, and we were called the Song Girls, by the way. Not a very popular term here in the Midwest, but that we're cheerleaders in that we don't yell. We are song girls in that we follow the songs of the marching band, but we hold pom-poms when we dance, just for clarification. I had to clarify. But I think with that, I was so young and I was in college and I was still figuring out who I was. And so I found identity in being a song girl. So once it stopped, I was like, I don't know who I am. Like, what am I without the pom-poms? What do I do? Because I was carrying that with me all the time. I was carrying that with me when I went to parties and chose not to take pictures with red cups like a lot of my friends, and chose to go to the gym twice a day instead of going and getting the tacos, and, you know, thinking about and monitoring every single thing that I was eating, which is very different from where I'm at now, where I'm like, girls gotta eat. And so it was a little different back then. I've definitely got a stronger sense of, I can't believe it's been 10 years since that time in my life. Can you believe it?
Let's not talk about, we're like the same age. Well, that kind of gets us into identity and what we're dealing with, or what Everson Griffin is dealing with, and we're all perceiving it from the outside looking in. And it's one of those things, we're seeing people where they say, quit making excuses. You have it all made. You have all your bills paid. Or quit making excuses. You shouldn't be protesting on the job. When it's like, wait a minute, that person's identity is completely different than what your perception of it is. Mm-hmm. That person still gets judged driving down the street because of their hair, whether you realize that or not, no matter their income. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Everson Griffin having a manic episode or a mental breakdown, whatever that is classified as, doesn't matter. This guy doesn't have it all put together, and he can't control that. And he's been forced to live up to this false identity that people put on him. Mm-hmm. Signs a big contract. Now, when you sign a big contract, could you imagine how many corporate interests come into play, how many family members come into play that he's got to live up to? That's a lot of pressure for a person that an average Joe who just has a regular 9-to-5, their bills are paid $50K a year, they're fine. But the thing is, they don't have to live up to everything a person who seemingly has it all has to live up to. And I think that's a big burden on these minds that aren't ready to tackle that. Not everyone can handle the pressure of an Elon Musk.
I think we all carry burdens, and some of those burdens feel like we have the whole world on our shoulders. You know, like, even think back to when you were in high school and you thought that like everything was like the whole world, and that the one thing that went wrong, or that most embarrassing moment, it was the end of your life. And whether you are bringing in $50,000 a year or a couple $100 million, you know, pain feels awful. It's terrible. And anxiety, depression, mental illness, all of those things, there are things that we can control, and there are some things that we can't. And you mentioned the example of Everson. I don't know if you know this, but we actually went to USC at the same time. He was one of my first friends.
Your Hard Out Today was supposed to be an event with him.
I was supposed to see him today. And you know, I'm not going to pretend like we're super tight and all that, because we're not. We've definitely drifted apart, especially with both of our lives going in crazy directions. But I knew Everson as the student, and not this gigantic NFL record-setting football player. And I see it where people get to see his heart. Like, people do know the heart that I know to an extent, and all of the charitable contributions that he makes, and also his crazy personality that is just outrageous, and that's totally true to him. But it's so easy, and I think we're seeing it on social media, and we're in that world of social media where rumors are swirling like crazy, and no one really knows what went on, what's going on up here. He might not even know what's going on up here, but all you can do is just really wish for the best, and remember that he's a human, and that pain, mental illness, stress, family issues, none of that leaves, like you said. And in some cases, it might feel like even more, because here he is, like, if let's just say it was a panic attack. Let's just say it was a nervous breakdown. Who knows? I have no idea. Yeah. I learned about this.
It's all speculation.
Just like everybody else. And who really knows? But let's just say it was something mild, like a panic attack, which isn't always mild. It feels like terror. But if you've ever experienced that, like, that feels just uncontrollable. It feels like you don't know what's going to happen. Your body is completely out of your control. And for me, a control freak, to not be in control is really scary. So imagine that times 10, where you have a wife to worry about, you have 3 kids to worry about, plus you have all of your city, you know, looking at you. You have your whole state, the pride of the Minnesota Vikings. This was supposed to be our year. The pressure of this was supposed to be our year, plus all of the NFL looking at you. That's terrifying, But I also want to look at it, and I hope that what people can take from this is that here's one more example of someone in athletics, a person of color who is experiencing struggle, who is extremely successful, who is extremely strong, who is as vivacious as he is, who is as cheerful as he is. You know, he's not the angry one. He's not the pessimistic one. He's a captain of his team. And mental illness does not discriminate. And I hope that people won't look at this as like a train wreck, but people will look at this as a learning opportunity, perhaps self-reflection opportunity, and just more of that conversation that we see people like Kevin Love starting to have in professional sports. And who knows, you know, football too, contact sport. Who knows what type of injuries could have also created something like this, or who can create something like this in someone else, whether it's painkillers or head injuries. Not saying that he's on any of those, but I'm saying in other athletes, like it's more common than we think, and no one wants to talk about it because there's that idea of we'll just shake it off.
Yep.
Just get back on the field. And I was that way too with cheerleading, with dance. It was just keep on dancing. And I danced through fevers and flus and injuries and heartbreak and family moments. And you just kind of learn to smile through it. But it can get exhausting after a while, and you can hit your limits. And I'm excited that people are having those conversations.
It's still a squirrely situation because with the leagues as a whole, it's very tough to talk about it because so many of these guys are blanketing emotions with chemicals, kind of like Josh Gordon as an example. That dude has had a mental disorder for a long time. He's dealt with a lot of crap, and he's blanketed it using substances, but you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to go to your team therapist or your team doctor and talk to them about it because they have to report it. And then now all of a sudden you're in a drug program, you can no longer blanket those emotions, and you're stuck feeling them, and that's a scary place, especially if you've never felt them before, because it's been taboo to talk about mental health. Now with Kevin Love, and another NBA player came out saying that the NBA gave him depression, the rigorous schedule, traveling all the time, because let's be honest, we cop an attitude if we've traveled with the same people for say a week straight. You eventually can't wait to get off an airplane with these people.
Yeah.
Like, leave me alone, you know?
Yeah.
I deal with that with just like 3-day stints,
Yeah.
you know? It's like, I'm over this. Could you imagine the pressure and being around the same people all the time? No wonder Jimmy Butler can't see eye to eye with immature adults who just want to play video games on the plane.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He just can't vibe with it, and you can't blame either party.
Yeah.
That's just a generational gap that happens.
Well, and there's also, I think, a fine line too, where it's trying to figure out, okay, are you stressed or are you actually depressed? You know, are you an anxious person, or do you actually struggle with anxiety? And with that too, you know, we go through that weird balance of the ones who don't talk about it and don't get help, and then they're the ones that talk about it or try to glamorize it or are over medicating. Because for me, it was the kind of thing where like the last thing I wanted to do was medicate. And a lot of people, the first thing they want to do is medicate, whether it's self-medication or going to the doctor who they know is going to prescribe them something that they could potentially get super addicted to or totally throw off their balance. And I think a lot of people think too that medication is a one size fits all, and it's not. It might be called an anti-anxiety or an antidepressant, but if it doesn't go with your hormones, it could make you extremely anxious and extremely depressed. And you want to be careful with those types of things. And so I hope that people take a more holistic approach first, and that some of the things that we learn about aren't just people who are struggling, but people who are coping. I think we need to learn how to cope and how to stand up for ourselves and not let ourselves fall victim to some of these illnesses or life struggles for that matter, and learn how to champion some of these things and realize that like it's not a burden and you're not a burden, and that there are other ways. There are the controllables. You know, if you're stuck traveling with a bunch of people, if you're stuck in a job that you absolutely hate, finding different outlets that can keep you sane, or people in your life who can talk you through things, or for me, it's faith, always. And then it's trying to figure out, because for me, you know, one of the times when I felt like I was going through a really hard time, I realized that it was a really toxic person who was making me feel super down on myself. And then there are times when I don't sleep enough. And of course, or caffeinate too much. And that's totally going to throw off my mind and my hormones and my feelings and my emotions. But if you're doing all of the right things, if you're, exercising, hydrating, eating well, that's super important. If you're surrounding yourself with good people and you're still feeling awful and you're not sure why, then, you need to start exploring other things and don't blame yourself. And don't, I hate when people say, oh, he's ungrateful, or, oh, what couldn't you be sad about? You have so many things. Oh, trust me, I am so grateful. I try to find the silver lining in everything, but it's okay to be sad. The question is just at what point?
What do you think the comparative lifestyle due to timeline addiction has done to our mindset?
What do you mean?
Well, because I feel men and women are kind of in a completely different boat right now when it comes to how social media affects our lives. And men are constantly comparing themselves to other men, and if it's mainly on a success scale. So this dude's way more successful, I have to get to that level, so I'm competing with that instead of competing with myself, which is where the real competition is. With women, it seems like, and this is just me speaking from the outside in, it's like I feel so bad for women right now because we were just talking about how your first few dates in high school, you never ate in front of the boy. And it was just like expected not to do it. And it was really weird. And now like, I feel like you're making food glamorous and you're pretty much just putting at bay body shaming completely, where it's like, fuck you, this is me, this is how I operate, this is what I eat, I am me. So many women who comparatively are not at your level, whether that's in the public eye or media, and they just feel like an LA girl. She cannot do that. She's got to get this part. She cannot do it. And I really feel bad for LA actors, especially come pitch season, where it's like the comparison game is tenfold. And it's like, no, Jenny's going for the same part again. And I lost to her the last 2 shows. Like, I'm not going to eat for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because they don't want me 15 pounds overweight.
I've been there.
You know what I'm saying? And
that's
men don't really have to worry about that side of things nowadays, especially in radio. Back in the day, you could just be a blob. Down in Rochester, we have Big Mark Clark, the voice of Laser. You could just be a blob. Now it's not like that anymore, especially as females. You and Fallon, you're keeping up with the Joneses.
Like you mentioned 2 interesting parts about it. One is the comparing aspect of social media. And I think that on social media and in life, it's all about perspective. And one thing that I preach both to men and women is if your social media feed doesn't entertain you, inform you, inspire you, delete. Don't follow accounts or people who are making you feel less than. Even me. I even said, look, if for whatever reason, like I preach goodness, I preach confidence, I preach happiness. And if for whatever reason my content rubs you the wrong way, it makes you feel bad, it makes you feel discouraged, unfollow me. And start following accounts that are going to inspire you and entertain you and make you feel good about yourself. But at the same time, if you're looking at your best friend and she is getting married and you're squirming at her wedding photos and you're pissed off because so-and-so keeps posting pictures about their fitness journey, or you like hate how there are baby photos from your friends, then you need to get your head right. Because if you can't be happy for your friends and their milestones in their life, then what's wrong with you? Like your friend found her person and you're upset that she's still posting wedding photos. That was the best day of her life. Why are you so angry? Why are you so jealous? In which case you need to not just check your social media feed, but you need to check yourself. And I think we have to train ourselves to be less comparative and more encouraging and more proud. And it takes practice. I think everything in life takes practice. Even confidence takes practice. I didn't used to be this confident. And then you mentioned the whole idea of like body size in LA and weight. And I am noticing a transition in terms of what people are casting for. And people are looking for more average body types and more curvy body figures. Men have been normalized as overweight for a really long time. Women, not so much. And same with people of color. And you can look at it from the perspective of, oh, well, the media and entertainment, they're trying to monopolize on diversity and on homosexuality and on people of color. Maybe to an extent that's true, Nike and the Kaepernick ad, but it still is helping people feel more included. And growing up in Minnesota, there weren't a lot of people who looked like me. I wasn't white. I wasn't black. I kind of felt in this weird place. I wasn't skinny. I wasn't fat.
You could catch a tan a little quicker.
Right, a little bit. I've always been in this like weird middle ground, and that's probably why I feel kind of comfortable being a loner a lot of the times. Like I can speak Spanish. I'm not fluent in it. And a lot of people, and why I never signed with an agent in LA is like they didn't understand me. And what I'm excited about is I'm not as conscious about being that stick skinny anymore. And that used to be what got me in the door. Now I'm more comfortable with my body and people are like, yes, that's what we want. And I used to walk into an audition with like perfect hair and perfect makeup. Like I would never have done this years ago if my hair wasn't like perfect or my outfit wasn't perfect. And now I walk into an audition and maybe I had a ponytail and my makeup's kind of coming off and they're like, yes, because I'm confident in it versus the girl who's like trying to be super fake. They want the person who's going to be real because people are realizing how important inclusivity is. People knock on the Kardashians all the time for the way that they've pimped themselves out. But from my perspective, that was the first time that I saw someone who looked like me. Like, yes, we've had J-Lo all this time, but J-Lo went blonde a long time ago. And she's super talented. And don't get me wrong, like J-Lo's my idol. She is my idol. But it was something where all of a sudden, like, there were these young sisters who were quote unquote real, and they were doing something a little different and they were not apologizing for anything. And there was just something about the way that they made what they looked like acceptable and in a lot of ways the aspirational that I was like, oh my gosh, that's all I've ever wanted. And people can look at it, oh, she had a sex tape. Oh, their mom whores them out, blah, blah, blah. But they wouldn't have, they're on like 15 seasons now. They are smart business people. It doesn't matter what you think of them. They're not out partying. They're not out, going crazy. They are very choreographed in every single thing that they do. And whether or not you agree with it, they know themselves. And they know exactly what they're doing. And they know that their career isn't going to last forever. So they are milking every single penny. Would I do it the same way? Probably not. But they are brilliant. And same thing with J-Lo. And why I love her so much is she was someone who, especially playing her role as Selena. She was someone who she wasn't white, but she wasn't black. She kind of knew Spanish, but not really. And she just went for every single thing. She did the singing and the acting and the judging and the producing and the writing. And she just went for it, even though she looked different than anybody else and she proved everybody wrong. And I think just it made me realize how important visibility is. And that's another reason why for me, social media, you might look at it as bragging, or I might be one of those annoying people who posts a little too much, but I get more messages of people saying, I saw you could do it, and it made me realize I can do it. And that's why I do it.
You made a great point regarding confidence. Once you get over that hurdle where you're very insecure and anxiety kicks in public situations, once you get past that hurdle and confidence starts playing a major role in leading your life, people start wanting to tap into that and they start seeing it, because you can always tell with people's posts online whether they're confident or insecure. There really isn't an in-between. You just know, vice or versa. Now, guaranteed, because I know this happens to me, guaranteed people are trying to tap into your energy. They reach out to you. They might just want coffee or lunch. They want to get the goods. They want to understand what makes Giselle. Now, you probably do take some of these meetings. When it comes down to it, and they ask you, how long does it take for you to spill the beans and say confidence?
What do you mean? Like as far as...
Because in a nutshell, that's the base layer. That's what makes us. Whether you do or you don't, it's all based on confidence or insecurity. One of the two, no questions asked. So when you are a confident individual who has gained ground in this fast-paced life, guaranteed you have to hit people with that.
Right.
Now, do you beat around I guess I'll reframe the
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Do you beat around the bush, or you just get straight to the point? Listen, man, it's on you. You have to be confident in what you do. You can't be insecure, because I can smell it coming from a mile away as a booker or as someone who is gauging your talent. No questions asked. So does that conversation come up, and do you hit them with the goods right away?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to take a meeting with just anybody. And by that, I don't mean you have to be a certain caliber. It's that I need to see that potential in you, whether it's what you've done or the way that you approach a situation or the way I see you hustling. If I've had my eye on you, if I see potential in you, I'm gonna take a meeting with you. Or if I see a way that the two of us can collaborate together, because I think collaboration is so important. And then from there, bye video.
See you later, video.
Video, camera just turned
Damn,
off.
son of a salamander.
From there, you know, you can preach confidence, because ever since, think about how often you heard as a kid, just be yourself. It's a lot easier said than done when you grow up and you finally realize who you are. It takes a lot of growth. And one of the things that I love to do, I call myself a confidence curator, is because I think that I have a language that's able to tap into others to help them find out things that they are confident about, or to find out skills or talents or uniqueness that they possess that maybe they didn't realize they had. I had a friend the other day who she really wants to pursue comedy, and she keeps on trying to be something that she's not. And part of that is that she's super Christian, and she's very self-conscious about like what she says, and she tries to be a little too vulgar sometimes, or she'll try to give the audience what she thinks they want.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you kidding? Like it's Christianity that sets you apart from everybody else. It's your nerdiness and your awkwardness that sets you apart from everybody else. It's your look that sets you apart from everybody else. You trying to be something else, people can sniff it. And not just people who are confident can sniff it, you know, like you. It's everyone can. It's that thing that rubs you the wrong way that you're like, I don't know what I don't like about this person, but for some reason I just don't. And so I try to give them the right love language to explain to them what they need to do to either start figuring out what that is, which could just be as simple as get off your ass and try something, or why don't you go back to that one thing that made your face light up? Why don't you pursue that? Because that was a moment for me. I remember I was a senior in college and all my friends had jobs lined up. And I knew I wanted to be a TV host. I knew I wanted to go into entertainment. But that was really scary, because it's not like you can get a 9-to-5 job right out of college as a TV host. Even with me, I had TV experience. And so I was just planning to take pretty much every single job that I could. I had this opportunity to do Teach for America, where I would teach at like an inner city school. They would maybe pay for like my master's. I'd maybe be in like a tiny town, who knows where. But I was like, well, I could be good at teaching, and they pay for more schools. So yeah, this is the safe thing. I should do this. And I made it to the very final round of interviews. And the night before, I went to some bougie dinner with an ex-boyfriend who was the biggest douche. And one of the guys at his dinners, I'd never met him. And he goes, oh, so what are you going to do after college? And I told him, yeah, I think I'm going to teach. And he goes, you don't want to teach. You just want to teach because you're scared to do what you really want to do. I was like, shit. Yeah. And I didn't go to that interview. And I know that had I gone, or maybe I wouldn't have gotten it, maybe I would have. And I know I would have ended up still in the same place where I'm at. But it just took that little nugget of hearing something in a way that no one had told me before, that just, everything changed. And I'll never forget. I mean, I still remember that moment. It was almost 10 years ago.
That is a pinnacle moment in life.
Yeah.
Right there.
Do you have a moment like that?
Yes, I do. But I'm going to backtrack with you self-proclaiming yourself a confidence curator. Yeah. I've got this blueprint.
Okay.
The 4 C's. And we need to wake up and implement them every single day. And this is what I've been teaching people. Wake up confident. Create context. Curate that context. So jot down the context that you want to accomplish. It should be done the day before, week before.
I'm terrible at planning ahead, by the way.
I know. So wake up confident, plan out context, curate that context, consistency. every single day. If
Yeah.
we create that and turn that into our revolving door, no matter what, you're going to see progress. Because if you don't wake up confident, you wake up losing the day already,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yep.
And it's a dangerous place to be as an entrepreneur, as someone who wants to work in media. Nowadays, you have to be a nonstop media station,
Consistency.
nonstop. And is that kind of, to get back into whether or not I've had moments like that, too many, way too many, countless, where so many, like nowadays, I have a beer on Thursdays with my old sentencing judge. This dude has been forced to put me in jail like 15 different times. I'm friends with his son even. His son's a writer, phenomenal writer, Gonzo-style writer. And just moments like that, or moments where I have a beer with my old county prosecutor, okay? Because our family friend is dating his daughter. You know, they live with each other down in Winona, and like, the river runs so deep where I've had so many of these kind of conversations where these powers that be, they kind of call me out on my bullshit. There was this one, his name's John Wade. He is the owner of Clement's car dealership down in Rochester. And this is a few days before Gary Vee. He called, or like a week and a day before Gary Vee. He calls me into his office and he's like, I feel like I could be helping you more. And he basically like made me take off my shell of working with a sponsor and someone I look up to as a mentor. He made me rip that shell off and be real with him. Yeah, John, I do need your help. You know everybody in this city. I need to get in with them. And I know it's too late for this, and we probably shouldn't even be having this conversation right now, but please, bro, please, tears were going down my face. Please, bro, guide me in the right direction for the long-term plan of this thing, meeting of the minds. Guide me in the right direction, because as a young buck, even operating in the Twin Cities, you can't, no matter how many connections we have, we can't just snap our fingers and get that seat at the big dog table. We've got to go through the corporate ladder, and no matter how much respect we have as a young hustler, we still have to go through the BS. And there are people in this world who we respect. They can guide us in the right direction through, whether it's even mentorship or just warm welcomes. They can put us at the table. It's up to them deciding and seeing the confidence in us to put us at the table. And that's been my biggest thing. Is I've had so many people, because I've been a salesman my whole life, but I've had so many people say, you know what? I'm going to help you because the passion, your passion, that's what I care about. And there are people who that kind of envy our energy because they see it on social media, just a form of passion that they are lacking. So then they ask us to have coffee, and it's like, bro, I can't instill my passion in you. I can motivate you, but the thing is, you have to wake up and operate through the 4 C's.
Right.
You have to wake up and do that. I can't do it for you. And it's something where professionals are dealing with that, who have identity crises. Kobe Bryant had to make a decision after he retired. He wasn't going to keep playing basketball. He had to either make a partnership with ESPN, start commentating, or be a crazy competitor who never got to fulfill a post-professional purpose. You get my drift? So what did he do? He went and partnered up with ESPN or TNT, and he did his show, kind of like KG. KG did, Area 21.
I don't know any of this stuff.
Okay, no, but these are players whose their identity, kind of like an Everson Griffin,
Right,
their
exactly.
identity is playing this one sport. Their entire family relied upon them playing that sport. The final 5 years, they probably didn't even want to play that sport, but they have to. Now we're dealing with this where there's social media, and now you're expected to not, what's his name, for the Portland Trailblazers. He's got a hopping podcast right now. He doesn't just, he's got a radio show in a nutshell. He doesn't just have his athletic career. Eminem, Shade 45, where these rappers need to get into alternative hustles, not for the money, to keep themselves sane, because we are living in this comparative...
And for the money.
And well, of course, the money's great. Wiz Khalifa and Rolling Papers and all of his Khalifa Kush and stuff like that. The dude loves marijuana, but he also loves money. But he also, and I don't know if...
He knows it's not going to last forever.
Yes.
That's something that's really smart about Wiz. He knows this isn't going to last forever. So not a lot of people realize that. They think it's going to last forever. They think that once you break out, it's only going to go up from there, and that's not the case.
The reason I bring it up is because we have friends who on the surface are living that comfortable lifestyle. They went the regular route, the generic route. They went and got their college degree. They got their job. Why are they all coming to us when they hit 30 and they're going fucking insane? They hate their life. I see what you're doing. I love what you're doing. Please let me tap into some of that energy. It's like, dude, you have no idea how much heartbreak and struggle and moves and leaping off of cliffs come with this fucking game. You have no idea. I cannot instill it in you. You have to do it for yourself.
Right.
I'm sorry you threw in the towel. You took a cubicle job. You got your $52K a year. You got your pension. Cool, bro. That's awesome. What now? You're going crazy when you're 30 because your identity has been false.
But also it kind of goes back to the idea of comparison, where, you know, a lot of people look at my job as all glam, all playing around, all fun. And it's more than just my job though. You know, a lot of people look at people, even like me, I always have a positive mindset. That doesn't mean I'm always happy. I'm always confident. That doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. That just means that and it doesn't mean that I'm perfect by any means. Like I talk about this all the time. I'm confident in sucking. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. That's part of what gets me going is that discomfort of I want to learn more because I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know where I'm going and I don't know what's next. And part of that I love, where if you're the type of person who you crave stability and you crave planning and organizing and being completely in control at all times, then my lifestyle is not for you. You will go absolutely insane. But we need to stop pretending like those who came from money or have different jobs or work in different industries, like they don't have the same struggles and their poop doesn't smell as bad as everybody else's, because we all have the same struggles. You know, people with kids, you see the picture of the smiling photo and everyone is happy and all the kids are sitting down and no one's wet their pants. Trust me, I'm sure as soon as that click went off, baby starts crying, you know, little toddler has a blowout and the other one's like hitting his dad. Like it's not... The idea that people still think this kind of perfection exists, it's like, really? You really think that? Or the idea that happiness comes from a dollar amount or a number on the scale.
That 80,000 mark.
Yeah.
That'll buy you happiness.
Or the partner. That's what a lot of my girlfriends are going through right now. They really want a baby. They really want a husband. That you think all of a sudden it's going to be easy when you have that one thing or when you move to a different city. No, your problems and your unhappiness is still going to follow you if you don't enjoy every high and low along the way.
Do you know what the best birth control is? Have a goddamn baby. That is the best form of birth control. I promise you that. Ladies, all of Giselle's friend, okay, go ahead. Have a baby.
Have a baby.
You won't be having another one.
It's so fun. I mean, I have friends who have 3-4 babies and they still want more babies.
You just have to get a baby squirrel.
Get a baby squirrel like I did, a little long-haired chihuahua. She's perfect. And she doesn't talk back most of the time.
She is the shit.
Oh,
she can just
amazing.
hang. Because they're small dogs, yippers, I call them. Little ABs, we call them ankle biters. A lot of them are assholes. That's me being judgmental and comparative.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's through firsthand experience. When I met that little
nugget,
she was just riding. She came out to Lotus with all of us in the Back Pocket podcast and just was down for the count. Didn't fuss at all.
I have so many friends, or especially guys, who say, I didn't think I would like her. I didn't think I would like a little dog like this, but I just want to take her home. I'm like, I know. Just chill.
I can tell
perfect.
that you grew up with brothers.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew this before you even told me this, because you could tell that Giselle was one of the homies. And that's tough. That's very tough for a female to hop right into that role. Mm-hmm. You know, it's the 10-time out on a date rule in high school. You don't fucking eat food in front of the guy. But this is kind of, it's instilled in you. It's who you are. Do you think that's played a role in your confidence?
I would say in terms of that, it's 3 things. One is I grew up with brothers. So yes, my sense of humor is a little different, although I think a lot of my girlfriends have dirty mouths. Different story. But yeah, I would say it's 3 things. One is that I grew up with brothers and around all boys, cousins, their football teams or basketball teams, and obviously the pride in Minnesota sports. And I was a daddy's girl too. Like, my dad is the shit. He's my best friend, even to this day. The other is I went to a small private school where all the girls were really catty. And I really had no choice but to find friends in guys. I didn't even think that female friendship existed until I got to college. And I haven't said this very much, but I had a couple of experiences in high school where I was sexually assaulted. And I never reported, not because I was afraid of the guy, because I was afraid of the girls who already were spreading so many rumors and calling me a slut or saying that I deserved it, or because I hang out with the boys that I call that type of attention to myself, or because I grew boobs so early that, you know, anything I wore was, you know, calling for that type of a situation. And then I think the third thing that happened was I grew up and I went off to college, and all of the girls who in my sorority, who, by the way, really taught me what female friendship was, that support system, that girlfriend who's going to root for you, who's going to be there no matter what, who's going to tell you the truth, who isn't going to tell you that a dress looks good when it looks absolutely horrible, who's going to lend you the shoes off her feet. And now I'm like, if anything, the person who roots for females to be friends with each other because of that terrible catty experience that I had. But one thing that I noticed too is where I had a lot of girls who, in my mind, were flawless bombshells, just gorgeous California blonde girls, big boobs, tans, everything. I'll just never forget looking at them and seeing how self-conscious they were. And I thought they were perfect. Mm-hmm. And seeing that, you know, little things that would bother them that I would never even notice. And then meanwhile, we go to a pool party where I'm like 10, 20 pounds heavier sometimes than some of these girls, or our bodies all look completely different. And I would have guys coming up to me because I wasn't as concerned I wasn't playing with my hair. I wasn't trying to cover up. I was just, you know, drinking a beer, taking a shot, having a taco, more focused on my girlfriends than I was about what I looked like. And don't get me wrong, I'm very self-conscious about what I look like. I put myself together very quickly. I learned that very early on. I grew up in pageants. I grew up on stage. And so in that sense, I think I can also put myself together quicker than other people. And I have little tricks up my sleeve for how to suck certain things in and cover certain things up. And so with that, I don't necessarily have to worry about it. And that's what I try not to do, is draw attention to those things. But I would see that, hold on a second. I think she looks like Barbie, but yet you think I look like Barbie. And that's when I had this defining, clicking moment where you realize, okay, I'm always going to be too skinny to someone and too fat to someone else. People have their own yums, you know, like their own licks, like their own things that they like. There's 31 flavors, and not everyone likes vanilla. Not everyone likes chocolate. Not everyone wants the rainbow syrup. There are certain flavors that you like, and there are certain ones that you don't. And there's not this universal idea of beauty. It's just what magazines have taught us are beautiful. You know, you ask someone who's attractive, and you're not going to get the same answer every single time. And that's when I realized, like, oh, wow. Just because that person doesn't find me attractive doesn't mean that I'm less than. It just means that we're not compatible. Great.
The internet made midget porn a thing.
All the things, even sex too. I think about that sometimes where, you know, you think of someone as being like bad at sex. To someone else, they are like Fabio, you know, like one person who likes it slow and sensual, someone else likes it rough. They're going to, the opposite, they're going to say, oh, they were bad at sex. Well, but when the slow and sensual finds someone else who's slow and sensual, and the person who likes it rough finds someone who likes it rough, they're compatible. It's compatibility. I mean, come on. You're just grinning at me like, I don't know what you just said. No. Where did this conversation go?
No, but I remember a defining moment in my life. My mom told me, I got my heart broken, and my mom's like, Nick, there's 7 billion fish in the sea. And I was an athlete, and that was me, you know. I was the.
And I want that one.
No, but it was like it clicked.
Why doesn't she want to be with me?
It clicked, and you always ask that. Oh,
of course.
But it all clicked. It was like, you know what, and that's kind of got my confidence rolling. Where it was like, fuck all this mess. Mm-hmm. Let's just go find me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the most sexual and sexy people are the one, and a human, this is male, female, everything in between, are the confident ones. The frickin' lady boys that are confident as hell and will straight up go steal your girlfriend in front of you because they're that frickin' confident. Check it out, Fabio. She's got it. You don't, dog. No, I've seen it happen. I've had my boys lose their hearts.
What do you mean?
Lose their hearts because a chick rolls in and steals their chick. I've had 2 homies walk in on their girl cheating on them with another girl, and it stole their manhood.
Hey. But it's not, I mean, don't let it steal your manhood.
Dude. Bravo, though.
You know, I mean, don't let it. It's just, I think also that's kind of the cool thing too, that social media is making different sexuality more acceptable. And people see internet as this dark place where even for me, when I was in high school and I didn't always have someone to talk to, there was always someone to talk to on the internet, or there were things to look up where I could find more people who looked like me or had the same interests that I did. And I think the internet is helping people be more comfortable of like, okay, maybe you like girls too. Maybe you like boys too. That's okay. And it's helping people be more comfortable with that. It's helping parents be more accepting of that. It's helping parents be more accepting of the fact that, you know, it's not always my fault, quote unquote, if your kid screws up or if your kid has different sexual preferences or dreams, aspirations professionally. And I think just diversity. People are starting to understand that it's okay to be different. It's really awesome to be different. And we should question the norm. And we should question how things just are the way they are, quote unquote. Like, it doesn't have to be. We don't have to put labels on everything. And so, you know, the stealing the manhood thing, I mean, hey, she's just figuring herself out.
Shout out. I applaud it. But no, the big city has always been the escape for the freaks, quote unquote freaks. I strongly suggest to anyone I meet with who is stuck in a mindset and they grew up in a small town and remained in small towns, get to the city. That will open up your eyes with the quickness. Travel as much as you can. My aunt, for example, I used to live with her in St. Paul back in the day, and she was a lesbian. Grew up in Rochester, could not find anyone who she could vibe with, and then she made her way to the big city, bought a house, grew her career, and has never been more free. And it's something where San Francisco in the 60s and 70s, where it's like you might be, as a black person, you might be hated on in a podunk town, but boy, oh boy, find your way to San Francisco and you will find freedom. Thank you, Jimi Hendrix, and thank you so many others. And it's sucks that it's still like that, but I think it's opening up a little bit more. We have a more diverse gay community down in Rochester. Shout out to Chad Allen and everything they're doing. But it sucks that it's still that way. You know, that no matter what, because of how people grew up, so many people in single parent households, right? So you got a kid, he grows up. No matter what, his back's against the wall. He's going to grow up with some form of ignorance because he hasn't had a sibling beating him up. He might have grown up in a small town as well. So there is no diversity there. So now you're just a single child household. And on top of that, there is no diversity. You're Foxville until you go to college. And I feel bad for you, but it happens consistently where these kids are like, they can't help it. But at the same time, there's more we can do with the internet. Because YouTube has made everything diverse, where you better not be judgmental if you're going to go to the freak party, you know?
And who knows, you know, I mean, I have friends who were only children and they're like the kindest, most compassionate, open-minded people who I know. I have friends who came from money, and some of them are the laziest people I've ever met, and some of them are the most hardworking people and are even having to fight against the fact that they grew up with money, and they're having to fight off that, like, no, don't you understand this? Sure, my life came with privilege, but I'm working my ass off every single day, and I think to use your past as excuses or to use that to put other people down is just silly. And I think too, even people from small towns, sometimes they don't have the means to get anywhere else, or sometimes they feel like they're stuck. And it sometimes takes us to go to smaller minded people. I still think I'm learning every day. I would say that my views have changed significantly over the last 10 years since moving to LA, traveling a lot to New York, leaving the country, coming back. But sometimes it takes us having those conversations. A lot of people just, you run into someone who was racist at the store, or you run into someone who was shaming you, quote unquote, at the mall. And instead of talking to that person, you run away and you run to Facebook and rant about it. And your post goes viral and everyone's saying, good for you, screw her. That woman doesn't have any idea what she did to you. And we need to have some of those conversations that we're afraid to have, because it still exists. And it's with sexuality, it's with color, it's with money, it's with political views, that people just want to shut people out who are different. And you don't realize, no, it's not. In a lot of cases, they're not being assholes. They really just don't know. They're not being snowflakes. They really just believe a certain thing because of how they were raised. And we just, for whatever reason, can't take ownership of mistakes, whether it's for ourselves or for the people around us. And that's what's holding us back.
Yeah,
it's both sides. It's not just one.
It's all how we frame ignorance.
Yeah.
And that's because when people hear ignorant, no, they're literally ignorant. They don't know. What gets my rocks off nowadays, and I don't know if it's trying to open up my heart and actually being conscious about it, is giving people the benefit of the doubt. Where someone who is extremely ignorant, small town, never been able to escape, might have grown up with nothing but racist grandpa, racist dad, racist mom, both sides, full gamut.
They might even be from big city.
Yeah,
I can think of a lot of people from big city who,
and that's a different dynamic where their parents are so often true conservatives. They might have came from a small town, able to move to the big city, and that kid, they were just always surrounded by white hockey families and white baseball families, and then before you know it, it's just instilled in them that that person's different, which means I respect them less. And obviously, we're kind of, with all my comparisons, you can't even throw a face on it. It's just a simple example, but at the same time, it's something I've seen so consistently where it does kind of have some credence to it, where at least we know what we are fighting up against.
Right.
And that's a crazy place to be. And I think the internet has opened up Pandora's box in that regard. It's opened up acceptance, but it's also opened up ignorance.
Right. Well, and I mean, I definitely, for a very long time, and sometimes even now, grew up with pretty conservative views. And I'm a Mexican American. People think that's not real, or how could that possibly be? My views on humans and human rights have always been very liberal, and I have people from the conservative side calling me, a snowflake or a liberal. I have people from the other side calling me a Trump lover, all these racist different things, and I'm like, okay, well, clearly that means that I'm doing my job then, because that means that I'm an independent thinker, because I'm not siding with one person or the other, or one party or the other. I'm trying to look at each issue independent of it. And I'm trying to look at other countries that are doing things differently. I mean, one of my biggest jobs was I was working for the Today Show Australia. And the way that they would talk about the US, and the way that they would talk about gun violence, and the way they would talk about mental health was so different. Not to go off on a tangent here, but one thing that I always just always blows my mind and that I like to share with people is, I'll never forget this day where I went in, I was doing entertainment, which is kind of the lowest on the list of priorities in terms of hard news, if you could guess. And they said, you know what, we're going to actually cut you for the rest of the day. There's been a terrorist incident in Australia. The whole city shut down. And someone who supposedly identified himself with ISIS was holding people hostage inside of a chocolate factory and had a weapon. And guns are banned in Australia. They don't have guns there. And we didn't even talk about it here on the news. Not even a little bit. I think there was another shooting of sorts. But there, the whole country, just completely broke down. You would have thought that it was September 11th, and they called it the worst massacre as a result of a firearm on Australian soil in over a decade. How many people do you think died?
Was it 3 or was it
Three people,
Yep, 3.
including the gunman, who, and one of the people who died was killed in a crossfire when the team came in to try to save what was going on. So 3 people, and the whole country shut down. The whole country started a movement about how you shouldn't discriminate against people who wear hijabs or who have darker skin color. The whole country wanted to unify and have this movement, and we didn't even talk about it. And it definitely was one of those moments where, even though, I have family in Texas and cousins who grew up hunting when they were 5, 6 years old, it just made me at least go, huh. Rather than being stubborn or resisting or putting my heels in the ground of, just sit and think about things sometimes and just look at the current conversations of what's going on, and rather than immediately resorting to what a party thinks or of what you only know, look at the other people around you. Look at how other countries are doing it. And I think that we need to do more of that and have more of those conversations of, weird, this is the worst tragedy on your soil in over a decade and 3 people died. Okay. Sit on that for a minute.
Yeah, the thing is, when you are the bullet, everything looks like a target. And that's kind of what the U.S. is right now. There's a perfect quote. 1 death is a tragedy, 1 million deaths is a statistic. Mm-hmm. Since we are the bullet, we are on the statistical side, where we have attorneys controlling our drones. Not flying our drones, but they control whether or not we drop a drone bomb or not, because they weigh out pros and cons when it comes to casualties. That's where we're at as a society. Now, we have people who will complain about Chicago, when Chicago has some very strict gun laws, but they fail to realize the systemic issue of just being able to go to a gun show across the border in Indiana to bring guns home. So it's not a law issue there. It is the fact that there is accessibility, and we're still battling mental health. We have a bigger issue than what mainstream media likes to talk about. And I think we can always bring it back to mental health. You have Australia, the country of Australia, that makes a concerted effort to give a shit about their local bloke, their local neighbor. They actually care. Here we are so disconnected. And I don't like to compare, like, say, New York to London, because I don't know the comparison. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is I know I can compare my community, and it seems a lot like going to another community and another one in the United States. Everyone's connected but disconnected.
Mm. And I just don't understand why compromise is so hard. Mm-hmm. That's what I have the hardest time. Why is compromise so difficult? Why are there so many obstacles to get to a place of compromise? And I hope that one thing that our generation does is they start to blur the lines of this party against party, or change what the different parties represent. Because as far as human rights go, we should all be on the same page of that by now. I know so many of my friends who are extremely conservative, who they will say, well, I'm conservative, but I am for, these things, or I, was super conservative in the last election, except for I couldn't based off, whatever it is, or this assumption that all people who are conservative are racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, white supremacist. That's vulgar language that is never going to bring 2 people together. When someone is labeled a racist, it's worse than being labeled a lot of other things. And racism, personally, I think has, in a lot of ways, there is more likely a cure for racism and homophobia and anti-Semitism by bringing people together versus putting them in this place of exile, where they're just going to exile themselves even more and find people who are like-minded and grow detachment even further.
And they're
Like,
never going to travel. They're never going to leave the state of Kentucky ever.
or wherever they are.
Yep.
Wherever they are or wherever they are hiding. And in some ways, I hate to say I like, because I don't think like is the right word, but I'm in some ways grateful for some of the dumb things that have come out of Donald Trump's mouth and Kanye West's mouth, because they have forced people to wake up and do more research and go out and get involved politically and take control of their community and see what's actually happening on their streets, that otherwise they would have just been like, I don't really care.
How do you feel about Kanye right now? I feel like he's going through this awakening, but he's still like, he's still got a communication issue.
Weirdly enough, although I do think that Kanye does struggle with mental issues, I think we need to, again, remove that stigma of because he has mental issues, that means he's unhealthy or he is a bad person or he is dumb. I do think that he's open about his mental issues. But I think in a lot of ways he knows exactly what he's doing. I don't think that he and Kim are in a business partnership. I think that they just have a lot in common in the way that they think. And I think he's extremely choreographed. I think that Yeezys are Kanye's joke on the world, because Yeezys are hideous. They're so ugly. And I would not be surprised if years from now, Kanye admits that they were just him putting whatever he could on paper as a design. And it was his way of proving that whatever he put his name on is gold. People will buy it. It's a commodity. And in actuality, they are grandpa socks poorly strapped to a rubber tampon pad thing. They're hideous. That's what they look like.
That's my new ringtone right there.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And all the things that he says about politics and about life, in a lot of ways, there are some things that make sense. There are some things so outrageous, like some of the dumb shit he says about racism and slavery, but it forces people to actually look into the history books so that they can correct him. It forces people to wake up and actually engage with people and have conversations and remind us of what matters. And maybe that's the optimist in me, where I look at the silver lining of everything, but I don't think a lot of those people who participated in those conversations gave a fuck about any of that stuff until they were stimulated with that shock value to wake up.
Yep. Forced to read some history books.
Yes.
What really threw me for a twist, and I know I actually talked to PDP about this, and he told me exactly what he told Kanye. I won't say it on here. But it really made me wonder where this dude is coming from. When you know how things are penned up, cows are way stronger than human beings, but they stay penned up. They could run them over. They could run over a band of farmers with freaking yipper dogs. They could just run them over. They're stronger. They can make it happen. A donkey could buck you off and then go and be a free jackass. But when he was saying, like, after 450 years that slavery is now a choice, or it was a choice, it's like, wait a minute, bro. Like, how are you gonna do that? Like, you just made yourself public enemy number one. All the while, it doesn't work like that. It's not simplified like that. Like, there is the white man, the egalitarian white man, Aryan race, has had their thumb on the pulse of everything we've ever known. They have been in control of not just millions of slaves, billions of people throughout history. And now you want to, they are the curation of billions of people. Them tapping into oil is what created not just the oil boom, but humanity boom. going against the people who built the ships. They had the means to build these ships, the means to crack whips. And now you're going to really go against your people like that, or our people like that, and you're going to say that history is flawed in a way of choice? Bro, where do you get off? And I don't know if that's calculated. I think that is ignorance. And I think that is Kanye being way too comfortable getting signed way too early on in his level of maturity. You get my drift?
Oh, I see what you're saying, but I still stick to the fact that I do think that he looks to create that shock. He loves that attention. He is that person who wants to disagree with you just to disagree with you, just so that he can hear whatever your argument is. I think he loves the diversity of thought that we're lacking a lot these days. People just think certain things or believe certain things because they're told to believe certain things. Whether it's they're told to believe history, they're told to believe statistics, they're told to believe what's cool. And I think he's proving that point. And maybe I'm giving him too much credit here, but I think part of it also lies in that, you know, what matters to you, and what pisses you off is what you allow to piss you off. So you can get caught up in this tweet that he sends out, or you can brush it off as someone who has no idea what he's talking about, or you can choose to use that as fuel in whatever it is that you're trying to do or try to prove. And if you're someone who is still constantly using racism or the white person as the enemy or slavery as your excuse for disliking someone, for why you're behind, for why you're not doing well, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't exist. But if you're using it as an excuse, or if you are using anything to victimize yourself, that's your own problem, and you need to let it go. And that's not erasing history here. I respect it. But if you're still trying to sock it to the man, I think one of the things, I was talking to my friend who he's first generation Filipino immigrant, and we were just saying that one of the things that I think our cultures have in common is, because we fall into this in-between race category, you know, the white person took our land. I always joke that, like, my family didn't necessarily cross the border kind of crossed us. It's true though. And you hear about a lot of Asians who are in internment camps too. And I think part of the things that culturally we were raised to believe is just keep your head down and work your ass off. You know, regardless of what it is. And you could call that ignorance, or you could call that naivete, but it's just that I've never let that get in my way. If anything, I've had an identity crisis, and I think a lot of people of color go through that, where I remember living in LA, all of a sudden I see people who look like me and who speak Spanish, and where I used to try to fit in a little bit more with being as American as I could, because I wanted to break that stereotype of what an American looked like. I was born here. You know, I know I was born and raised in Minnesota. So I was constantly trying to break this idea of, no, my last name is Ugarte. It is not Ugarte. All of a sudden I get to LA and I have casting directors saying, oh, but you look like Sofia Vergara. Why aren't you more flamboyant? Why aren't you spicy? Okay, well, all of a sudden I became more bubbly and flamboyant, and I started saying, I'm Giselle Ugarte. I'm not fucking Giselle Ugarte. I never have been. I don't have an accent. My Spanish isn't perfect. I'm not flamboyant, you know? Like, you know me. I'm calm as a cucumber all the time. This is my range. I don't get angry. I'll get super excited, but I don't, that's not me. I'm not the fiery Latina, but that doesn't make me less Latina. And that doesn't make me less or more American. And I think we need to embrace and own up to our roots and accept everything that our parents and ancestors did for us. But as Americans, we need to be exactly who we are in this moment. And of course, be proud, but at the same time, don't try to be something that you're not. And don't try to hold on to something from the past that is hindering you from moving forward. I think all of us, even white people, we need to own up to the mistakes that you've made, that your culture has made. But at the same time, we need to let go of all of the dumb stereotypes that are holding us back from embracing each other, because we are all Americans first. And we need to redefine on what that is to be American.
No matter what, we can't rule out hiccups. Hiccups, generationally, they always happen. No matter what. Right now, we're dealing with a hiccup where, we thought we were over this issue from the MLK days and prior. But no, we're still dealing with it. It's still alive and well. The internet is kind of giving us a transformation of it where they're taking their hoods off.
Yeah.
And then it never helps. And this is where we have a left and a right battle. So it never helps when someone who's supposed to be a cultural icon tweets something, whether it was categorically planned or whether it was off the cuff and just being ignorant. Remember, Kim told him don't go to TMZ.
Yeah.
He still went to TMZ. And there's no reason for a Kanye West to dip his toes in that. He doesn't need to. He's past that point of even needing it. Same thing with Eminem when he came out with his Trump freestyle last year, fuck Trump. And it was like, okay, Em, like, we already know where you lean. You didn't need to do that, but you did it. And there's a yin and a yang to any sort of hoopla or hype that comes about like that, because it brings on, it's to the point I can't even go on social media those days because I know what to expect. All the while, we admit it's the conversation that needs to happen.
It's the conversation. And, I mentioned the people who are waking up, who are standing up for what they believe in. And some people go, oh, but you're waking up the people who are ignorant, who are racist, who are anti-Semitic. You're making it seem like that's okay. I appreciate them waking up because now I know, oh, wait, you were in my own neighborhood? I need to go talk to you. Not I need to go say, go fuck yourself. I need to go talk to you and show you what it looks like in modern America to be different. And also there are even the ones, and tell me if you think it's even more scary, but like, there are the ones who say racism doesn't exist, but you wouldn't let your daughter go out with a black boyfriend for homecoming. Or you squirm whenever you see two guys kiss, but you claim that you're not homophobic. It's a very subtle form of prejudice that if you say it doesn't exist, no, it does. And it's okay as long as you admit it and as long as you, I think, work on it. Because unfortunately, a lot of people are under this pretense of, well, if you were ever racist, if you were ever homophobic, then you're this awful person. A lot of people who go to church, at one point, their church was telling them that certain things were unacceptable. And luckily they broke out of that. But everybody at one point, a lot of people in our history were raised to think that it was wrong to sit in the same room as someone who was a different color. And so, yes, we do need to condition those people, and we do need to befriend those people to let them know, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm not a terrible person. It's a lot harder to hate someone when you know someone, when you're friends with someone, when you love someone. But you have to offer them that love first.
Absolutely. And that's kind of gets us into, do you accept or do you judge? When you hear that someone like that lives in your neighborhood, give them the benefit of the doubt. You know there's some nook or cranny inside their heart that has hate in it. They won't let their child, it's there. They might say one thing, but they're a hypocrite. Let's be honest. I like to test people in their form of ignorance. I grew up in a small town, okay? And over the past few years prior to moving back to the city, my wife and I were living in Mazeppa, and my Sudanese brother, Timmy Nella. I typically, when I go to the Twin Cities with my friends from Rochester, I would just meet them at the Quick Trip in Zumbrota, and we just go from there right off the highway. But I wanted to do, it was early day pickup, so like it was like 3 p.m. Okay, it wasn't we were going up there for the night, but we had operations to handle, so we are gonna be up while the sun is up, because that's a big difference when you're hanging out with black people when the sun's up, when the sun's down, with how they get judged.
Oh,
You get my drift?
really?
Yeah. My stepdad's black. I see it. If we're driving at night, we're getting pulled over. If we're driving during the day and he has a dad hat on, we probably won't get pulled over. Okay, this is just a way of the game. So I have my boy, and I knew I was going to make him, I was buying his gas because he was driving. So I was going to make sure that we stopped at the gas station in town. I'm plotting all this out because I want to see how these ignorant fucks in this small town operate. Because I'm just going to paint the picture. Trump signs in every yard. Farmers who own a lot of property, they bought the big old Trump signs. That's just what it is, okay? It's Trump country. And so he picks me up. I bring him down to the gas station. We're getting gas. And Timmy's dark skinned. Dark skinned. And I'm looking around, and you can just see it. I know him, Billy over there, Tom over here, Joe over here, John over here. Everyone, this is their commune place. This is where they show up to get their Mountain Dew and dip and freaking get their gas, fill up their tractor, you know? And I just see judgment. And it wasn't anything that was being said. I just knew it was in the air. And it showed me, and this was just last spring, it just showed me where we still stand to the point. A few weeks ago, I'm president of the Lions Club in this very same town. All white men, all old white men, retiring white men in this club. I walk in and I start pointing out, this is the day after the Nike fiasco. I start pointing out Nikes just to test them. Not to say anything, not to make a point, just to test them to see what their rebuttal is when I say, oh, I like your Nikes. It always said, well, I'm throwing them away after tonight. And it just instills in me because I see it firsthand. I'm dealing with it. My mom got with a black dude in 2000. That was a paradigm shift for me. And I now have two mixed little brother and sister who just graduated this year. Great. One's an assistant manager. Another one's freaking moving up the totem pole. Like, they're doing their thing, but they can't help the fact that they're judged no matter what. No matter having half white family, half black family, doesn't fucking matter. Their escape is going down to Atlanta, Georgia to go to the Barlow family reunions. That's their escape into what they know is reality. You know what I'm saying? Not coming to a small podunk town and getting judged by every set of eyeballs that they can't control. And that's the America, unfortunately, Donald Trump went for. Hillary Clinton didn't even show her face in our state. Donald Trump went for it, and he knew where we still stood. He knew that he could rise up something that we thought disappeared, that we thought went into the darkness, but it didn't. And I feel bad for the gray aliens because this is your fight. This is your fight. You and your first generation Filipino friend, this is your guys' fight. The middlemen of the world, this is your guys' fight. I can only do so much. I can only say so much. I'm a blue-eyed white man. I was born on third base just because of my genetics. The fight is on the people in the middle.
Yeah.
And we all play a role, whether it's through conversation, whether it's through connections, pushing each other in the right direction. But the fight long-term is we all end up, or the end game is we all end up gray aliens. The same fucking race, equality, new world order. We're finally there. Do you know how long it's going to be to get there, though? How long it's going to be?
When we have sides that are as segregated as we are, and when both sides, I think, are as prejudiced as they are, it's going to be a while. And you know, call me naive, but I grew up in a place that calls themselves super embracing of diversity, but yet someone like me walks in the room and I don't necessarily think I was being judged, but it's just that you don't see people who look like me very often. And so you just don't really know what to do or what to say. Or like the other day when I mentioned that someone said, oh, I thought you were white. And she really doesn't think that there's anything wrong about that conversation. Or you do have those people who they just don't want to admit, and maybe they're female and maybe they are Latina or black, and they don't want to say out loud that they are conservative, because the automatic assumption is when you say someone is a Trump supporter, let's be honest, that doesn't mean you have conservative politics. When people says they're probably Trump supporters, they are saying they are probably racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic. They don't consider any of the other Republican values that previously with any other candidate would have. They assume that that person is pro-life, is narrow-minded, is this, is that, but people have different reasons for why they voted. And if we don't listen, and if we don't also throw away this whole even concept of Trump supporter, like he's already president. There are probably people who supported Trump who don't anymore. There might even be people who didn't, who do now because of certain things that happened. I think it's getting rid of some of this really like just divisive language where it's just like, we're all human. That's what we are. And we all have the civil right to vote. We all have the right to run. And it's up to you for what matters to you. There are people who I know who are immigrants, who just got their green cards, who just got their citizenship, who are pro-Trump and who are pro-building a wall and who are pro-making immigration more difficult. And so with that, we need to just take into consideration that no, these aren't all dumb people, that we're all on both sides. You pulled your camera out and I don't know what you're trying to do to me here.
Imagine an old white man, okay, in the 1960s, all right? He has a conversation with a black man, and it's like a half an hour long conversation. That white person is going to talk about that conversation they had with the black man in the 1950s, 60s for weeks.
Probably.
For weeks. And he might be racist and he's going to talk his racist talk in the backdrop, or he might be an open-hearted, open-minded white man, white liberal who is still going to talk about that experience because it didn't happen to him on a daily basis.
Yes.
And we need to normalize interaction between everybody.
Yep.
And what I've seen down with the liberal community down in Rochester, it's in a really weird place right now because it still is diverse, where there isn't the inclusion that there should be at this point with where we are with the internet in the 21st century, to the point where it's almost like the people crying racist are the racist ones. Mm-hmm. And it's a very scary place to be because they fall back on history. They fall back on, no, I'm constantly judged. When it's like, we need to bring out the confidence. We need to raise the barometer. And you just gotta, we know this, but we need to find it in you to wake up with that confidence and go kick life's ass to get the respect from these people who you feel don't respect you.
And the same thing goes for women.
Yes.
Too. That's something that that I always, I think, especially being in the entertainment industry and being in radio, I'm always just trying to be both an example, but also learn every single thing that I can, because I do feel in some ways I have to overcompensate. But I am always going to try to be the hardest working person in the room. I'm never going to victimize myself as being less than because of a male dominated industry. Sure, I might have to work harder in some ways. But you know, I have talked to friends who will have conversations about equal pay. And trust me, I understand the wage gap is very real. But I also have been in circumstances where I have either replaced males or I've worked alongside male co-hosts, and I'm, you know, especially with everything we see in Hollywood, I'm so tempted to go in charging, because I don't have an agent, so I do all my own deals. So I'm always tempted to go in charging and saying, hey, I want to get paid exactly what he's paid. And I had one job where I was so tempted to say that and I didn't. And I instead waited for them to give me an offer, negotiated, got even higher. Turns out I was making double what the male host was making previous to me, which had I said I want to get paid what he's getting paid, what?
Pew, right in the foot.
and same thing too, you know, with other co-hosts who I have had, where, you know, I'm so tempted to say, like, I want to be making exactly what he's making. Same thing happened where I thought that they would be giving me the raw end of the deal, and it turns out, had I said that, they would have been like, okay, yeah, you can get paid what he's getting paid, when really they were going to give me more, or I was tempted to walk away if they didn't give me what I wanted. And so trust me, like I said, I definitely have women in my life who they are struggling and they have gone to their bosses and said, hey, I'm doing more work than this guy next to me. Why am I not getting paid more? And they're like, hey, if you have a problem, then you can fucking leave. Like verbatim. I have a friend who was told that you can fucking leave. And she's building a case on it. Who knows how it'll go. But I also can think of a lot of women who complain about their circumstances, and they haven't even asked for that raise. They took the first offer they were given, and that's not sexism. That's just bad business. and you need to, regardless of whether you are male or female, gay or straight, you need to ask and know what your worth is, and go for that, and always ask for what you want, and then negotiate from there. But
Everything should be based on productivity in my eyes and what you actually and genuinely bring to the table. Nowadays, we're seeing social clout. Giselle Ugarte can roll in and demand, and now you have the leverage because let's be honest, you're rocking.
thank you.
And it's kind of like how we started this conversation, being judged by your voice over the phone. That's kind of what it has been like for females in industry and in business. And same thing with like a woman whose name is Lacroixette, and she's going for a job, and they just see her name, and it's like she's being fucking judged right there. And it's in this the mental mechanism and makeup of these freaking egalitarian bosses, which are typically white males. Obviously, that's putting a face on it, but it's just kind of been across the way, and it's something where we need to do something about it.
And I've been put in. I've seen both sides of it. On the one hand, I have the advantage that I have a low voice for a female, and I also use my voice for a living. I have had situations, and because I work in entertainment, people can judge me based on what I look like. So I have had situations where I have been turned away because of what I look like. At the same time, when I was considering applying to business school, or in some cases when I was applying to different jobs, I know I was given a leg up because of what my name was, because of what I looked like. I had a graduate school counselor who legitimately said, well, your GPA wasn't as high as the average, but even if you get lower scores, it's fine because you are a female of color. So you'll be able to get away with that. Now, if you were a white male or if you were an Indian male, you would be at a disadvantage.
Do you know that's what's going on at Harvard right now with Asian people?
Yeah.
They're literally raising their GPA and the mandation behind it. They're getting Foxville. All the while, they're still kicking ass.
It's crazy. I think I have always tried to use what people consider to be weaknesses to my advantage. When I used to have really bad skin, and I sometimes struggle with it now.
Yep.
Well, I learned how to do makeup. And then it came into play where I could do my own makeup for camera and makeup for stage. And because I had bad skin, I booked an international skincare campaign.
Really?
Yes. I'm on proactive vending machines everywhere.
Atta
Still. When people said I looked a different way or my face was a certain shape, I used that to my advantage where I had a leg up in, I don't look like everyone. So I have a unique look. I am a female, but I can do all the things that the boys are doing. And with that, it makes me want to learn. And it goes back to that whole idea of like being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and being okay with sucking. Like, okay, that's fine. I'm going to take my weaknesses and I'm going to learn, and I'm going to be aware of the things that I suck at and either play on my strengths or figure out what my weaknesses are so that people who are trying to hire me or look for me have no choice but to say yes.
So when you are booking these, right? And if you don't have an agent, are you cold calling these mofos or are they hitting you up?
It's both. And it's been an adjustment going from LA to here. I didn't have a network here. I had to start over. I also came from TV. All of a sudden I'm in radio. I came from freelancing and working for myself where I did have to sometimes call and get doors shut in my face, to all of a sudden having this full-time gig and not really being entirely sure like what I was doing. So in that sense, I am having to introduce myself more now, but I think I did enough of listening and observing, and I think being an example of what I can do with the use of social media and also having the network from radio, that people are coming to me. And I also had to get off of my high horse of LA, where I would only, do things that I was paid to do, and I had to get paid a certain amount. Now I realize that it's not about the dollar amount, because I was getting paid a lot of money in LA and I woke up and I was miserable. And so now I'm willing to do certain things. If I love it, if I'm passionate about it, if I believe in it, okay, fine. I'll do it for a smaller amount, or in some cases free, because I wholeheartedly believe in it. And I know that it's something that's going to make me really happy, or it's going to teach me something that I would have otherwise paid to do, paid to learn how to do. But it always goes back to, like, I always want to learn more. People ask me, why do you take on multiple jobs? Like, are you strapping for money? It's not about the money. It's about wanting to diversify my palette of colors that I can paint with. It's about wanting to try new things. It's about wanting to meet new people. It's about wanting to expand my network and not get bored at doing the exact same thing every single day. And if money comes with it, awesome.
When you break it down like that, I had this realization that not a lot of people are like us.
No.
So, like, no matter how much coaching people want, or how much they want help, or how much they want to have coffee, it's like, man, I can't do it for you. And it goes back to that. I can't do it for you. And I am just me. I am unique. I want to make connections. Not everybody wants to connect with the world. I was just having lunch with a friend prior to coming here, and I was telling him how I have to put my friends in on a board. I have to, like, pretty much dictate who's going to get a text this week, who's going to get a call this week. Not that I don't want to talk to everyone, but I'm trying to manage like 150 people right here.
There are people who work to live, and there are people who live to work. And we love to work. When we take vacation, I mean, I can unplug, but the way that I unplug is very different than, say, someone who wants to go sit on a beach and lay there all day. For me, sitting on a beach and laying there all day, I feel so unproductive, and that drives me nuts. Mm-hmm. And some people would categorize that as unhealthy. But I love working. I love feeling useful. I find purpose in what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I love helping people and connecting with people and staying busy. And that's another thing that I've had to learn as well, is that people's idea of productivity and happiness varies. To some people, happiness is living in a tiny little house that they own in the middle of nowhere with a dog and a wife and kids. To some people, happiness is living with a backpack and traveling all over the world. To some people, happiness is in the office with family, whatever, a comfort zone. Public speaking, for example. My comfort zone is talking, and it's performing. But to some people, like public speaking, they'd rather get eaten by a shark. They'd rather drown. That's not their comfort zones. Happiness, like it all differs from person to person, and you just have to find the one that's right for you. You have to find the level of success that is right for you. Whether it's that you want to make $20,000 a year, $200,000 a year, $2 million a year, or just be happy with what you're doing, which ultimately is going to be the fulfillment, because finding that happiness in the dollar amount, it's not going to give it to you. And, for you having a daughter, how much did your world change when all of a sudden it wasn't about you anymore?
It's the greatest form of birth control ever. No, but it's a paradigm shift. There is no preparation. There's nothing anyone can tell you. But what I am dead set on is creating a fully functional human being that can optimize, because I know I can't control if she's going to be a boisterous female leader like Giselle, or if she's going to be passive and like my wife, and just be a worker bee and be able to operate like that and live happily like that. Because there's a reason why me and my wife are together, because we are
opposites. Yeah.
That's literally what it is. So I don't know what my daughter's going to become, but people question, why don't you put your daughter online? Why aren't you throwing an iPad in her face, stuff like that? It's like, I'm trying to create a fully functional human being, not a droned out, what you expect to be little child.
And you're doing the best that you can.
Yeah.
You're being the best parent that you can. And you're trying and you're figuring things out. You're keeping her alive first and foremost. And what works for you, same thing with schools. And I think one thing that our generation is learning about is people learn in different ways. Some people don't see numbers in the same way. Some people don't need to go to a 4-year college. Some people are better off getting a technical degree or, learning with music or arts or visuals or electronics. There are multiple ways of learning and functioning, and you have to find the best thing that works for you and for your family and for your marriage. Because, your partnership can't be the same way anymore. Why are you smiling all of a sudden? Why are you giggling?
D-Mill's coming to see us.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But no, it's just and sorry, I apologize.
You're
That's
fine.
why I'm looking at my phone, because D-Mill's hitting us up.
D-Mill?
Yeah, he's on his way to the station. No, but like my wife and I's relationship it's crazy, because just when you thought you couldn't love somebody anymore, like when you bring another human being into the picture, into the fold, your love has to expand. You have no choice. And one thing that
Your love for your wife or your love capacity in general?
Love capacity when you bring in another human being, but love in general for my wife, where it's like her and I are non-judgmental towards each other, where it's like, she knows I have feelings.
Yeah, she can't be judgmental to be with you.
She can't.
to let you run and to let you dream as big as you do. Yep. Like, no, that's not possible.
But it's also helped her out.
Yeah.
You get my drift, where she probably prior to me, 6-7 years ago, whatever it is, where she probably couldn't even see herself allowing a male to have girlfriends, to be sitting here with Giselle in her space. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been in relationships. You've been in controlling relationships like that, where like that's the end of the world. And I feel bad for my boys who are in a long-term relationship or with their significant other. And I can already hear them in the background. If I'm saying, hey, let's go up to this concert this Friday night, you already hear the excuses coming over their shoulder. Nope, ain't happening. It's like, bro, your freedom is at risk here. And I really feel bad for you. And then it always comes out due to their unhappiness at a beer, watching a game on a Monday night or something, where they're actually opening up and they're being controlled, and they're finally admitting it to themselves, because we go through this honeymoon period where we don't eat the first 10 dates. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're unable to be real.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach my business relationships, where it's like, we're going to be real from the jump. You're going to come in and you're going to think I'm overbearing, but really I'm just a confident SOB who doesn't have time to waste.
Yeah.
And I think that's what guides us and propels us, because you have full slates.
Yeah.
I love people with full slates, because it means when you fit me in, it means we're going to get some shit done.
Yeah.
That's the long and the short of it.
Do you know what's crazy though, is that, you mentioned sometimes those relationships that are controlling. I definitely do know people, both men and women, who they just like their lives that way. Really. And I don't know if it's like a middle child syndrome thing, but it's the type of thing where they like someone who kind of tells them what to do and kind of dictates their schedule, because otherwise they would just be floating around. And they're the type of person who they always kind of did what you're quote unquote supposed to do. They're always going to have that structured job, and they're going to put in as much work as they need to. And they're going to allow that direction to take hold of them. And as much as they might complain about it every now and then, they like that, and they're content with it. Whereas you and I are definitely similar in that, like, you can't put us in a cage.
Oh shit. Yeah, that's literally my wife.
You can't put me in a cage, and I will say that we are the types of people who, when you matter to us, we're going to give you that time. And that's something that you and I have had this conversation because, you know, you have a little girl, and I told you about how like my dad is my best friend. My dad is a doctor and an entrepreneur. He works all the time. He will work until the day he dies, which God forbid isn't anytime soon. And he missed a lot of soccer games. He missed a lot of dance recitals. My parents were never really the type to help me with my homework because I was so independent. But I never, ever, ever felt like I was missing out.
Hey, Daddy-O. Are you outside?
No, I'm just leaving Woodbury. So I'm just literally just leaving the studio
You guys can record here if you want.
just now. So, just leaving. What part of town is she in? She's in Minneapolis?
West End.
West End.
West End.
By
Okay.
Cub on 100 and 394.
Are you leaving there?
What's that, bro?
Are you leaving there or are you staying there for a minute?
We're still recording.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay. Still recording the podcast?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
waiting on you.
Yeah, I'll just pull up there. Yep, I'll just pull up there because I gotta go back or get to the radio station for like the next hour. So I'll just pull up there and then just run in or you can run out or something.
Yeah, I'll run out.
Okay, cool, bro. All right.
Talk soon.
Email.
That will be edited.
Oh, God bless.
Let's tell the world where Giselle lives.
Let's tell the world.
Let's do it on aisle 9. No, but you were talking about kind of your relationship with
My
your dad.
yeah. So I never felt like I missed out because when I was with my dad, it was always quality time. And he never made false promises to me. He wasn't the dad who said, oh, yeah, I'll try to be there. Or, oh, you know, I'll be there and then wouldn't be there. If anything, it would be a pleasant surprise when he did show up. And he just always showed me what it was to work hard. He came from nothing and I just respected it. I appreciated it, and then I adopted it myself, seeing him work as hard as he does and be able to provide for and respect his family and my mom in the way that he did.
So in a sense, he never got your hopes up.
He never got my hopes up, and he always believed in me. He never, ever questioned any of my dreams. He never, ever put pressure on me to be in a relationship. I was never asked to any of the dances in high school, and my parents were never...
Was it the hockey hoodies?
The hockey hoodies?
Yeah.
What's that?
I remember a few weeks ago we were talking about, it was at the Back Pocket. I think we were all out to dinner, and we were trying to guess what you would wear in high school. And I went like full bougie mode, like freaking high heels. And you're like, no, it's more like a sweatshirt girl.
Yeah. It was because my freshman year I showed up wearing like heels and all dressed up, and this girl just like talked smack about it. And I think from that point on, I just didn't want to have to deal with it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to wear a sweatshirt and jeans, and I'm going to work my butt off, and I'm going to get into the college that I want to, and bye. So yeah, I think, you know, with my parents, they always just saw me as someone who was working hard. You know, I didn't have the parents who did my school projects for me. They definitely they raised me to be a functioning human being. And I'll be honest, I was the most spoiled child of the three of the siblings. I was the one who was last. I was the only girl, and I'm definitely the favorite child. But I'll tell you what, I was the first one to be independent early on. I was the hardest working, most active, most involved kid because I had the example of my older siblings, but because I had that relationship with my dad, where it was just I wanted to make them proud, but at the same time, I never felt less than. I wanted to succeed, but I never had this feeling that I wasn't good enough. And what my dad did, I think, is just so valuable, and it's so simple, but it really meant the world, and it's something that I still hold on to this day. And I realize more and more how much like my dad I really am.
I keep getting told this, oh, she's going to be such a daddy's girl. She's going to be your world. And she is, as a father, early on, she's 6 months old. Your relationship isn't prenatal. Mm-hmm. It's not before she comes. That's the right term, right? It's not prenatal. It's post birth. That's when your relationship with your daughter starts, you know? And now it's like fully forming and becoming this like symbiotic relationship where it's always been that with my wife and her, you know? And I was always told that, but now it's forming into what it is now. And I hope, and I'm going to set her up for success in any way possible that I can do it. And I think it's going to kind of go back to what we started this on. It's what we'll end it on, confidence. I think it's more important than ever to instill it in young girls, to instill confidence. Fuck what they think. Do what you believe in your heart is right. That's the long and the short of it. Giselle, I'm going to ask you a few goofy questions. Then we'll send you packing.
Go for it.
All right.
Yeah.
What are you going to be for Halloween?
Oh, that's so good one. Halloween is my favorite. I usually end up being more than one thing. I've been wanting to do a really good Carmen Sandiego costume for a while. So I think that. Or Jean Frankel. Do you know who that is?
Let's stick with Carmen Sandiego.
Well, I might do both, but do you know who Jean Frankel is?
No.
Jean Frankel is Will Ferrell's cowbell character from Saturday Night Live. I really wanted to do that last year. I got the wig, I got the shirt, I have a cowbell sitting in my living room right now, and I didn't get to do it because I broke my foot. And people were like, "You could have done it." And I was like, "No, but I couldn't have done it full out, where you're like really giving more cowbell, and the belly's going everywhere, and the hips are shaking everywhere." So I think that's my plan. What are you going to be?
Carmen Sandiego, Jean Frankel. What am I going to be this year? I'm probably going to be a dad.
You can't do that.
Check it out. So like me and my boys, we always used to go to the U of M homecomings. And one year I had this idea where we're all going to be stay-at-home dads. So I brought them all. We all got our front baby carriers. And we dressed, it was so you didn't have to dress up and you could still go out to the bars afterwards.
Yeah.
So you dress up with a flannel on with your fake mustache, your dad hat, but you got to hang it, a dangling freaking Cabbage Patch Kid on your chest. You dress them up in a jersey, you put them in the Jordans, you put a freaking Top Gun hat on that little midget, and then you don't have to dress up. Last year I was
little
a little
person.
Yeah, I was a little person. Sorry. This morning I was on my way up here. I was having a conversation with my boy, and he's like, he had to pause me. He's like, "Whoa, I just saw a real midget."
God bless.
And it's like, it's one of those
Little
situations.
person.
One little person. And it's like, they're my favorite people. They're my favorite version of human beings because they have to face the ultimate adversity. They have to smell farts all day. Oh. They get asked to tie shoes way too often. And they can't
assholes.
And they can't grab us a bowl to put fettuccine in, you know?
Oh. Well, unless you put the bowls in the lower cupboard.
That's where the pots go. They can grab me a fork.
They could put their pots wherever they want.
They probably do, but what if they're at Aunt Margaret's?
Then they get to use the really cool step ladders, or they get to climb stuff and it's still acceptable.
Ooh, so they get to treat a kitchen like a jungle gym and get away with it. Mm-hmm. I bet they can even wear their shoes indoors.
Yeah.
Probably.
They could do whatever they want. Live your life.
Live your life.
Live your little life.
So, do you know there is a little person collective here? It's like there's an agency that hires little people.
Yeah.
So if you want them for a parade, want their collective for a parade, if you want them to come run through a tavern for you, you can hire them.
Yes. That's one of those things where you're using your supposed quote unquote weakness or that thing that society thinks is your weakness and you're using it to your advantage. I mean, in some cases, you're making fun of yourself more than anything and you're laughing all the way to the bank.
I think I just got an idea for Meeting of the Minds.
Okay. I'm a little afraid. And I might have to talk you off the ledge.
I'll tell you about one of our next year's installment. Mind you, Giselle Ugarte is the voice of the Meeting of the Minds.
Heyo.
I probably should
I
have.
sounded so dumb saying that. Hey.
Heyo. Freshman year in college. Heyo.
Hey.
Okay, so there's my one question. I got another one. We
Okay.
won't do 5 greatest inventions. We'll leave at this one, okay?
Okay.
If you had to choose to be one mythical creature to infinity and beyond, you had to, what would it be? This could be an alien. This could be a leprechaun. This could be a freaking, what did Brandon just say yesterday? One of those horses with wings, a Pegasus.
A Pegasus.
Yes. A unicorn.
The first thing that came to mind was a liger.
Yo. Hey,
Half lion, half tiger.
that's the savior. That's the gray alien of the human race.
Yeah, I think I would be a liger.
That's finding the middle ground.
And I'm a Leo, which I'm not really an astrology person, but I do think that I'm someone who is very passionate and small but mighty. And also, isn't it lions that the women do the hunting? Maybe I made that up.
Lions do, yes. I don't know if it's full-fledged all out for tigers, but I know for lions, yes.
So,
The women's get the ball rolling.
yeah.
Dang, so I don't know, man. A liger, I just don't know what they can bring to the table.
Really?
I don't know, like, damn. Because you're just going to be chilling. I mean, unless you're a different kind of liger, or you're not going to be hanging out under shade all the time.
I wouldn't be. I'd be a hunter. Can't ligers fly too?
Huh?
Can't they? Okay, fine.
Ligers are a real
I have a
animal.
new answer. No, they're not.
A liger?
No.
A lion and tiger. Yes.
I thought that it was like a mythical creature from
No,
Napoleon
they're a
Dynamite.
real animal.
Okay, fine. I changed my answer. If I could be a mythical creature, I would be Wonder Woman.
Yo,
Okay?
that's the move. Would you be a corporate style Wonder Woman, or would you be, I got my cape on right when I wake up and I'm going to kick ass Wonder Woman?
I have my cape on right from when I wake up. I love costumes. I have a Power Ranger bathrobe on my desk chair at the office.
But you know, to pull that off, to wear your cape all the time, you would eventually have to be robbing banks, right?
Potentially, if it was for the good of the world.
So you'd be like the Robin Hood of Wonder Woman?
Well, no, I would be Wonder Woman, where it's finding the truth,
Yeah.
because she has her lasso of
Yeah,
truth,
yeah.
and believing that love will save the world.
Would you still Google stuff?
Yeah,
You would.
yeah.
But if you're Wonder Woman, you could just go shake somebody up by their ankles and they'd tell you what you needed to know.
Yeah, but then I'd have to find the person first, whereas Google is instant. It's right there.
Okay, so if you Googled something and it was like in China, would you take a flight to China or would you just fly? Because
Depends on what my schedule is.
you're going to get judged.
Depends on what my schedule is.
No matter what, you're going to get
I can
judged.
change my wardrobe. I'm Wonder Woman.
But you can only fly with a cape on.
Well, then in that case, I'll take a flight.
So you would take a flight. So you
It depends on what my schedule is.
would. Wait a minute. If you're waking up and just putting your cape on, your schedule is kicking ass.
I still gotta sleep.
Aha, but what if Wonder Woman doesn't need sleep? Then it's like what?
Then I would just keep going and circling around. We're getting to technicalities, and she's losing her polish. Let's just leave it at Wonder Woman.
We had to switch.
Confident AF.
Confidence. Wonder Woman. You heard it here first. Giselle Ugarte, thank you for joining the Stationary Astronauts.